Calling all authors, the Your Book, Your Voice podcast with host Robert A. Lane features everything you need to know about narrating your audiobook. But it doesn't stop there. We have special guests lined up from all aspects of the book publishing industry, and we also dive deep into what it takes to be mentally prepared for success as an author and in life. So please welcome your host, Robert A. Lane.
Hey, my friends, how are you today? This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. We are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Appreciate you being here. If you're checking out the podcast as we do it live, please feel free to go into the comments and let me know about your book. If you're a nonfiction author, tell me about your book. We'd love to hear about it. If you are tuning in for the very first time and you're not familiar with the show or with who I am and what I do, I am an audiobook coach and producer, and I specialize in helping nonfiction authors turn their book into an audiobook that they narrate themselves. Because if you're a nonfiction author, you have a great book that's published out into the world for them to read, you need to be the one to narrate your own audiobook so the world can hear you tell your story in your unique style, in your unique voice. Because again, your book, what you've written, your personality, your style, your energy, your pacing, everything that makes you so unique is already in your written word. So when you narrate your audiobook, you're actually bringing it to life. You're giving people a chance to They read, right? They have a feeling and they're reading about what it feels like to hear you. Well, they're imagining your voice, of course, when they're reading. But when you narrate your book, when you narrate your audiobook, you are bringing it to life in your unique style, and you're preserving the integrity of your book. You're preserving your author brand. This is what makes you so unique, and this is what makes you you. And so that's what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. I help authors like yourself turn that great book into an audiobook that you narrate. And I have a coaching program, which is called Your Book, Your Voice. And it is a 6-week program where I take you from setup and preparation to narration to publication on Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books by the end of the 6-week program. You can narrate and get your book published and uploaded for publishing into Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books. I call it the AAA because you got to be on those distribution platforms for sure, and get you published. And that's it. So the world can hear you tell your story, hear it the way that you intended for it to be heard. That's so important and so crucial because it is all part of preserving your author brand. Now, today's topic, by the way, is a good one, right? We're talking about consistency, and I call it audiobook consistency, just like gourmet baking, right? Consistency, right? If you're making a special holiday dinner, or maybe you have a special sauce that you have for, I don't know, anything that you're cooking, or maybe a soup that you make, or even pancakes, right? If you don't have the right consistency, either your pancakes are going to be too lumpy, or, when you cook them, they're not going to cook all the way because the batter's too thick and then they're still raw on the inside, though I do know some people who do like that. That gives them some flavor, I guess. But you get the picture, right? You have to have the right consistency, and you have to know what to do and how to do it to create that consistency. It's like you going to a culinary school. I'm going to Cordon Bleu, and I'm going to become a chef. Same thing in regards to audiobook narration. You want consistency. And that's our topic for today, because we're going to dive into basically 2 main aspects of audiobook consistency. One is the practical aspect, and the other is the emotional aspect. So you have practical consistency, and then you have emotional consistency. And both are really important, and both need to be there from opening credits to closing credits. They have to be there. All right, so we're going to dive into that. I mean, when you wrote your book, okay, or maybe you're in the process of writing your book, you need to be consistent with how you're telling your story. As a nonfiction author, you probably have this great story that you're so compelled to share, and that's awesome. Or maybe you're an entrepreneur or a coach, and maybe you're writing a book about your coaching program. Maybe you're a relationship coach or a career coach or a life coach, or maybe a weight loss coach or a nutritionist, or maybe you're a poet or an educator or a teacher. Maybe you have a self-help book. Maybe you have an educational book. Whatever it is, it's still in your unique voice, of course. And that's really, really key and important. But no matter what type of book that you've written, or maybe that you are in the process of writing, you need to be consistent in telling that story. You hear about, storylines and creating that arc and having it being engaging and having your listeners so compelled into your story that they just, they're excited just to hear you tell your story. That's how they feel when you have a greatly written book, right? So to create that consistency, when you wrote your book, maybe you hired a book coach. I hope you did, because that really is super helpful in regards to really fine-tuning your writing style. When I published my book, I have a book, here it is. I have a book, it's called Lights, Action, You. This was a book that I wrote. It's more along the career coaching and life coaching aspect. But again, I hired a book coach to help me write the book, or at least show me the steps needed to create a great book with the stories that I wanted to share, with the concepts that I wanted to share, and to be consistent from opening credits to closing credits, to make sure that there is that consistency, so that everything flows, and that again, there's an arc. These are in my book. There's stories, are there experiences from when I worked in the entertainment business, but again, there still is an arc with each chapter and each story that I tell. Same thing when you're writing your book. There's a story arc, right? And by the time you get to that climax, and then you get to, wrapping up the story that you're telling, there's definitely a flow to it. So having a book coach is great, right? That's all part of consistency. When you're building consistency to narrate your audiobook, just like when you build consistency when you are writing your book, you are putting together a team of people. Those are your tools, right? Those are your cooking utensils. You want to stir the pot in a good way. It's not like, we're going to stir the pot in a bad way. No, you're stirring the pot in a good way, because you want the consistency of your story to be exactly how you want it to be. So maybe you hire a book coach. That's definitely a great way to go. You can message me and let me know. I got a great suggestion of some really good book coaches, and there's one in particular, like the one I worked with, who's awesome. But anyway, that's a good thing. When you have created, you're writing your book, and now you've created your first draft, and maybe now you have your manuscript. What do you do next? You hire an editor to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, to pick everything out that can enhance your story without taking away your unique style. Because that's what we want to preserve. When you're writing your book, it's your voice that's in the written word. When you're doing your audiobook, it is literally your voice, right? It's your voice. You're telling your story, but you want to have that consistency. So what an editor does, of course, is not change your pacing and changing your style, but just making sure that everything is correct, all right? Because you want it to be as professional as possible. Part of the tools, right? You're putting together this great team of people that are helping you create this awesome book. And that's where the consistency comes in, okay? When you are done with your editing, then you got to have your book formatted so that it meets the exact specifications for publication as an ebook or a paperback or a hardcover. Same thing when you are recording your audiobook and publishing your audiobook. The consistency, of course, is important, but you want to make sure that everything is done professionally so that it meets the exact specifications for publication on Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books, and any other distribution platform that you want to put your book. So it has to meet the exact specs, or else it's going to get rejected. If your audio levels are just all over the place, your book will get rejected. If there's some extraneous noises or sounds, or maybe there was a buzzing that you didn't notice and you submitted that for publication, it'll get rejected. So it's really, really important to make sure that you have the proper guidance to make sure that your book and your audiobook are top notch. Okay. And that's why people hire book coaches. That's why people hire audiobook coaches. That's why I love doing what I do as an audiobook coach to help you as an author make sure you create a fantastic product. Because again, your ebook, your paperback, your hardcover, and your audiobook, that's your product. That represents you. You are the author. This is your brand. You're an author brand. You are a professional. You're not a hobbyist. If you got a published book out there, that's awesome. Okay? That is so great. You are a professional and you are an entrepreneur. I just heard recently that about 16% of people are entrepreneurs. That's a very small percentage because it's a tough job. Now, you being an author and writing a book and now maybe recording and narrating your own audiobook, that's great. That's entrepreneurship. And that is something that you should love and embrace. It's not an easy road, right? If it was, everybody would do it, right? But you know what? I'm glad you are, and I'm glad you're an author, and I'm glad you're doing this. And that's why being consistent with your products, with your author brand is important, because that's all part of branding, right? That's all part of marketing. You got to make sure that you're consistent there. So anyway, the thing is, and this is the great part about audiobooks. Now I'm using baking and cooking as an analogy, right? For consistency, we're stirring the pot in a good way, right? Positive way. What's great about you narrating your own audiobook is you already have the secret ingredients. You have them, right? There's two main ingredients that you need to have to do an awesome audiobook, to narrate your own audiobook. Two ingredients, you have them. First of all, which is obvious, is you got a book. You got your published nonfiction book. That's ingredient number one. You got to have that book, obviously, to do your audiobook. And what's the second ingredient? The second ingredient is your voice. It's your voice. You have everything that you need to create an awesome audiobook. And then all you need to do is just learn how to be consistent from opening credits to closing credits, how to maintain your energy, how to make sure your levels are great. And again, we're going to dive into that in just a little bit. But the most important point that I want to make to you is that you have the tools. And don't doubt your ability. Don't doubt your skill set. You're a writer. You've got a published book out there. You've told an awesome story. And again, if you're a coach or an entrepreneur or a poet or teacher, educator, you have something even more to offer the world, which is why you wrote your book in the first place, which is why you do your coaching program in the first place, because you have something that is valuable that you want to teach other people. And even if you're not a coach, you have a great nonfiction book and you're telling this great story because it means something to you. You are driven, right? You have a purpose. You have what I say, and I know you've probably heard this before, is like, what is your why? The reason why you wrote your book in the first place. You're bringing all that into your writing, and you still bring all of that when you do your audiobook narration. That's where the consistency comes in, because the consistency of your writing style and your written word needs to be consistent with how you narrate your audiobook. And like I say, you have the tools. You have the tools. So don't doubt your ability. Believe in yourself. Just like you believed in yourself when you wrote your book, you need to believe in yourself and in your voice when you do your audiobook narration. Believe in yourself. Love the voice that you have. It's a great voice. Love it. Embrace it. Appreciate it. Right? Just enjoy it. You have a great voice. This is my voice. This is how my audiobook sounds. But I put my personality into it. When you do your audiobook, it's your voice, and you're putting your unique style, your unique stamp into it. And that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. So you have the tools, but you have to have the confidence in yourself that you have the ability to narrate your own audiobook. And you do. Again, I say this a million times, and I will always say this, and I believe this wholeheartedly, and that is every nonfiction author needs to narrate their own book, because nobody can tell your story better than you. You've already done it in the written word. It's already there. Nobody can replicate you. No other narrator, not AI, none of that. Nobody can replicate you. It is your unique style, your unique stamp. That is your author brand. You need to preserve that author brand, which is why you narrate your own audiobook. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to dive into the practical aspect of consistency. I'm going to talk about that, of how to be consistent from a practical standpoint. Okay. And then after that, we will dive into the emotional side of it too. All right. So don't go away. We got some good stuff to share with you. When we come back, I also have a freebie I want to give to you, which we'll do when we get back from this break. You're listening to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. You can check out what I do as an audiobook coach and producer at robertlanecoaching.com. We are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. More coming up. Audiobook consistency from a practical standpoint. That's up next. Don't go away.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
All right, welcome back to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. RobertLaneCoaching.com is where you can go to get more information about what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. We are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Again, appreciate you hanging out. We're talking about audiobook consistency. You know, we're stirring the pot in a good way. We're stirring a pot. We're making consistent audiobook narration and how to do it. And used baking, right? Chef, you are a chef. You know what? You are a chef for the ears. That's what you're doing as an audiobook narrator when you're narrating your own audiobook. Before we dive into the practical aspects of the narration and how to be consistent, I do want to give you a freebie. And my freebie is an audiobook narration reference guide. And you can grab this guide. It's free. And I have both from the practical and emotional aspects of how to do a great audiobook narration. It's a great PDF download. It's yours free. Just grab the link there. If you are seeing the video portion of the podcast, you can see it there on the screen. If not, if you're just listening to the audio portion, the link is this. It's bit.ly. It's a bit.ly link. All my links are bit.ly links, by the way. So it is bit.ly, bit.ly/narration reference guide. All right, bit.ly/narration reference guide. Okay, so grab your free guide. You'll really enjoy that. It's super helpful, especially when you're doing your audiobook narration. Okay, and then of course, as I mentioned, as I've been mentioning about the website, you can always go to my website to find out more about my audiobook coaching program, which is called Your Book, Your Voice, and find out more about booking a call, which we'll get into that in just a bit. But what I do want to talk about now is audiobook consistency, right? Just like gourmet baking. That's our title for today. And let's talk about the practical aspects of how to do a great audiobook narration, right? It's just like cooking, right? You are the chef. You are creating a great work of art. It may not be something that you can eat, but it is something that you can hear, and that's just as good, right? That's one of the five senses that is a great sense, right? Your hearing, and you want to create something that you want your listeners to love and appreciate and enjoy and be compelled and just engaged and wanting to listen to your audiobook again and over again because it's that good. And you have the tools, and you have the talent, and you have the skills to be able to do it. You mean, even if you've never done an audiobook narration, you can do it. You can do it with the proper guidance. Absolutely. It's just like going to the Cordon Bleu, going to culinary school. All right. So practical aspects. Let's just kind of take it methodically. And the first thing that you need, your first tool, right? If you're going to cook up a great audiobook, you got to have a kitchen to cook in, right? So what you need to do is find a great space. Okay, you're going to set up your own recording space. When you're recording your audiobook, and this is what I do with my clients that go through my audiobook coaching program, I teach them how to set up their own recording space because that does a number of things by doing that. First of all, is you're not under the pressure of trying to find a good recording studio that, and it has to be good. You know, I will share a quick story with you. One of the authors that I worked with did an audiobook that he did at a studio who was a friend of his that had a studio down the street. They recorded their audiobook. There was some buzzing or some kind of noise or something that was in the entire audiobook, and they didn't catch it. So when they tried to get it published on Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books, it got rejected. It got rejected, and he ended up having to spend a ton of money getting everything fixed, redoing stuff, and then finally he was able to get it published, but it was just a headache. So it is really important that you have to have the right equipment. And so the beauty about setting up your own recording equipment or your own recording space is having a space that's comfortable for you, having a space that's quiet. You know, you don't want to set up in a big cathedral, right? And you don't want to set up your recording space, you know, that sounds like a bathroom, because that's just too echoey, and that's not what you're going for. But if you have a home office or maybe a spare bedroom, or maybe in your master bedroom. I have a client right now, she's recording her audiobook in the master bedroom because she's comfortable. She has a great space for it. She has a desk where she does her work, and she sounds great. So whatever space is really comfortable for you, that's where you're going to set up your own recording space. Again, the other reason is that you're not on someone else's timeline, and that can be pretty stressful, right? You rent studio time. You know, you pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars to book studio time and have an audio engineer there and doing your thing. And then what if you go in and it's an off day for you? And let's say you wanted to, you've planned it out. I'm going to do, I'm going to record, 3 chapters today, and then another 4 chapters tomorrow, and then I have the rest of my book will be the next day. Let's say that's your schedule that you have booked out. Well, what if it doesn't work out the way you want? Or what if you're making a lot of mistakes? Or what if you're just not having, a good day? What if your energy isn't there? What if you're not able to convey and narrate the way that you wanted to because of whatever issues? Could be physical, could be emotional and mental, it could be a mindset thing. If you're having an off day and you're in someone else's studio and your studio time's up, they're gonna be like, okay, thank you, see ya. And what horrible pressure to have that over your head when you're trying to record. You're not going to do your best job. That's the other main reason why I have my clients set up their own recording space. So you set up your own space that's comfortable for you, You, of course, need to allocate specific times that you're going to record, and you need to hold yourself accountable. So let's say maybe you're a morning person and you're like, from 6 to 7 in the morning, Monday through Friday, that's when I'm going to record my audiobook. I'm going to do my narration and maybe knock out a chapter a day, or maybe a half a chapter today and the other half tomorrow, whatever your plan is. You got to hold yourself accountable to that time. Now, of course, as your audiobook coach and producer, if you're in my program, you bet I'm going to hold you accountable 100%, because I want you to do the work and do it, but with relaxation, to be conversational, and to be comfortable, because that's going to get the best narration out of you. You need to be comfortable. Okay, so that's where you set up your recording space. The other thing is you want a quiet space too. You don't want distractions. I was working, doing editing on an audiobook, which I had to have the author redo a paragraph because they brought their cell phone and set it next to their microphone when they were recording. And that's something you do not do. You need to eliminate all these distractions. You don't want to have any distractions there. I'm like editing, and I see this big, peak in the waveforms when I'm editing their audiobook. I'm like, what's that? Bing! Super loud. It's like, well, guess what? Those 2 sentences have to be redone because their phone went off. You got to make sure that where you're setting up your recording space, it's quiet, and that you let people know if there are other people in your house, let's say, and you have a home office and that's where you're going to record. To say, hey, don't disturb me now for the next hour because I'm working on my audiobook. And then don't have anything else around that can distract you from doing a great narration, okay? So having a great recording space, that's part of what's going to make you consistent. The next thing that you absolutely need to have is a great microphone. Now, this is the microphone that I send to my clients when they sign up for the audiobook coaching program. This is an awesome microphone. It is a Shure MV7 mic. Great mic. Thousands of podcasters use this as their microphone. It sounds fantastic. It comes with a stand. If you're in my program, you get the stand with it as well. And you can't cut corners. That's not, your cheap $50 mic or even $100 mic. That's a good quality microphone. And the reason why I send that to my clients is because I want them to have the best of the best. I want them to sound so fantastic, and that will do the job. So again, when you're setting up your own recording space, you can't cheapen when it comes to your tools, right? Those are like your baking, okay? Those are your utensils. You don't want to, get something that's cheap. Like you wouldn't grab a bunch of plastic spoons and forks when you're trying to cook a gourmet meal. No, you get the proper tools, right? The other thing is, here we go, headphones. I also send my clients headphones. You got to have a really good set of headphones. I like these. These are Sony. What are these? The MDR 7506 headphones. The reason why I like these, and this is why I provide these to my clients and when they enroll in the program. By the way, the equipment that I send you when you're into the program, it's yours to keep, okay? It's yours to keep. It's part of the deal. And I like these headphones, by the way, because they're light on your head and the sound is accurate, right? They're not overloaded with too much bass or too much treble. They're accurate, and that's very important when it comes to your audiobook narration, okay? So having, again, the right tools to create this great piece of art, that's exactly what it is, because you are a creative, just like cooking, just like baking. You got to have the right tools, all right? So having great equipment and having a nice, comfortable space for you to work in are 2 crucial pieces that you need, all right? The other thing that you have to keep in mind in regards to consistency and what is so important is mic placement. How far away are you from the mic? Are you talking directly into the microphone? Are you popping the mic, all right, with the consonants that are plosives like P, B, K, G? Sometimes G comes off a little harsh. These are consonants that can pop the mic, and you don't want that sound coming through in your audiobook narration. So mic placement is really important. So when you figure out what the best angle is, maybe it's not talking directly in and being too close to the microphone. Maybe you talk across the microphone, maybe at a slight angle, so that when you say those consonants like B's and P's and C's and K's and those kind of things, that you're not popping the diaphragm in the microphone. And you will sound great, and it's still picking up your voice nicely. So when it comes to audiobook consistency, when you find that sweet spot, okay, you got that microphone set, it's sounding great in your headsets. When you find that sweet spot, lock it in your brain, okay? Watch your levels when you're recording and see what your distance is and lock that in into what you're hearing, because that needs to be consistent. Your audio levels need to be consistent. So every time you leave the studio and then you come back to the studio, wherever your setup is to record your audiobook, that you're sitting in the same place or standing in the same place, whatever's comfortable for you, and that the distance from the microphone is the same and that your levels are the same. Okay, because you don't want to sound muffled. You don't want to sound like you're way far away, on half a chapter, and then the other half a chapter, it sounds like you're right in somebody's face. Okay, so you have to make sure that your audio levels are consistent, and the more you do it, it'll lock in, and that's how you maintain your audio levels and you maintain your consistency. There are a couple of other points that I want to hit on. We do have to take another quick break, but I do want to talk about awareness, because awareness is key, and we're going to dive into that when we come back. This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. I'm an audiobook coach and producer. You can check out what I do at robertlanecoaching.com. We are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
All right, this is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Robert A. Lane, your host. I'm an audiobook coach and producer. You can go to robertlanecoaching.com to find out more information about what I do. We're talking about audiobook consistency. By the way, we are streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Just wanted to make sure you knew where you were. All right, audiobook consistency is crucial because you want to sound the same from opening credits to closing credits, which means the same amount of energy, the same amount of drive and purpose in your narration, and of course, the same audio levels and all those practical aspects. Now, I do want to touch on awareness. Awareness is really important. You need to be aware of what's going on in your surroundings. What are the ambient sounds that are going on while you're recording your audiobook? You need to be consciously aware of that. It's easy to not think about these things. I had a client once when she was starting out. She, wasn't this narration was obviously not a thing that she was used to doing, and so she tended to have a habit of, while she was talking, she would move away from the microphone, like turn her head while she's doing her narration. And it's like, you can't do that, because then you're changing your audio levels, and then when you're off mic, it sounds like you're off mic. Or she'll be shuffling something or moving something or readjusting her chair or hitting the desk. These are all sounds that are going to be picked up in your microphone, and those are things that you don't want in there. Okay. Now, in the audiobook coaching program that I teach, not only am I teaching you how to do a great narration, when you do your audiobook narration, you're sending your files to me as part of the program, is that I do all the editing for you. So I clean them up and make sure they sound great and that they meet the exact specifications for publication. So you're guaranteed 100% to be published on Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books. But if there's a lot of movement and noises and things of that nature, I do my best to edit certain things out. But if you're talking and there's a noise that's happening while you're talking and it cannot be edited out, you're going to have to redo that sentence or maybe that paragraph, because you can't have those noises in there. So awareness is very important. Be aware of your surroundings. If you hear a plane fly by, guess what? The microphone is going to pick that up. If there's a big truck that drives down the street and rumbles the ground, that rumbling will more than likely get picked up in your microphone. If the gardener across the street fires off that leaf blower, guess what? That microphone is going to pick it up. So just be aware of your surroundings, okay? And especially when you're recording, this is what I tell my clients. You just got to be set. Get yourself set. Hit the record button. Make sure that you're settled, that you're in the position that you want to be in. Whether you're sitting or standing, that your mic placement is exactly where you want to be in, so that you just lock yourself into that position and then do your thing. Do your narration. Then you'll have a great sounding audiobook narration. Okay? So those are some of the practical things that you need to do in regards to being consistent, because again, you got to have those levels consistent, and you want to be able to sound great from, again, opening credits to closing credits. The other part of it where you definitely need to be consistent is your energy, is your emotion. Those are so important. Those aspects are just so important. And that's where we talk about purpose. We talk about the core reason why. We talk about those aspects of why you wrote your book in the first place. Because as I've mentioned earlier, your voice is already in your written word, okay? It's already there. So your purpose, your reasoning, the emotion and energy that you're bringing forth in your written word has to come out in your narration. And you can do it. You can do it. You don't have to force it. You don't have to be radio DJ voice. You don't have to, overact, right? Amateur actors overact. I am angry. I am happy. And they just pushing it a little bit too hard. Okay. You don't need to do that. You just need to be yourself. You talk in your own conversational tone. And what will really help you, again, we're talking about those tools to get that consistency. We're stirring the pot of a good mix of ingredients here, right? So to help you focus and to help you to be conversational, what I tell my clients when they're doing their audiobook is think of somebody specific in mind. Okay. And I mean specific, like who is the person? Who is their name? Are they your husband, your wife, your significant other, a friend, a family member, a coworker, somebody that you feel comfortable talking to, somebody that you feel relaxed and conversational to tell your story, somebody that you're excited to tell your story to. have a very specific person in mind, because what that does, it does bring out your conversational and pacing abilities, but most importantly, it brings out your authenticity, right? You don't want to fake it. It's none of this fake it till you make it thing. No, you need to be you. You need to be yourself. You need to be your authentic self. That's what separates a mediocre audiobook from a fantastic audiobook, is because the person doing the narration, the author who narrates through an audiobook, they're being authentic. They're being themselves, and they're telling their story. And they're telling it in the way that they want to tell it. Their expression, and like I mentioned about pacing, but their expression. That's why I say every nonfiction author needs to narrate their own audiobook, because no one can tell your story the way you would tell it. Even if you had the best narrator in the world, it's still going to be their interpretation. Maybe they're emphasizing words or phrases in a way that it's like, no, that I don't want to push that. That's not the emotion I'm going for. Okay? When you're doing it yourself as an author, you're narrating your own book, you know where those accents need to be. You know where the emotion rises, whether it's happy or sad or angry or whatever the emotion is. You're taking your listener on that journey. It's just like any book, you have your story arc, and it has a flow to it. No one can replicate your flow, and that is so important. And this is why, when it comes to consistency and preserving the integrity of your author brand, why you narrate your own audiobook, because you're in control of the flow and the pacing. You're telling the story in, again, your voice, and preserving the written word, the voice that's in your written word, when you now narrate your audiobook. So those intangibles, those things that maybe that you can't physically touch, but you can emotionally feel, very important. And you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent when it comes to your narration and when it comes to the intangibles. So when you're recording your audiobook, again, it's done in sections. Maybe if you're not familiar with the process, when you do record your audiobook, it is divided up into sections. You have opening credits, foreword if you have one, introduction, dedication page. All your chapters are separate audio files, closing credits, acknowledgments. Maybe you have an afterword, maybe you have a prologue, maybe you have all whatever sections that are in your book. They're all separate audio files. So when you're recording, it actually makes it easier, because then you can just take things a section at a time. And the advice that I give my author clients is this: do it in linear fashion. It just makes life a lot easier. You can jump around in your book if you want, but when it comes to consistency, you want to maintain that energy. You want to maintain, again, the practicality of things, right? The distance from the microphone and audio levels and those things. But when it comes to the energy, when it comes to the emotion, you want to be consistent. So when you do it in linear fashion, it just makes sense. It just makes sense, because you're going on the journey of doing your narration, and it's the same journey that your listener is going to be going on when they listen to your audiobook. And you want that consistency with your energy, and you want that consistency with your emotion. So let's say you're recording chapter 5, and then you've already recorded chapters 1 through 4. Well, go back, listen to those chapters, take a little section and get refocused, tap into that zone of energy that you were in, because you want it to match. You want it to be consistent. You don't want to have chapter 1 being like this, and then chapter 2 sounds like this, and then chapter 3 sounds like this. That's inconsistent, and that's just going to be annoying to the listener. You're telling a story, right? You're speaking your story. You're sharing it from your heart, because your heart and soul is in your written word. That comes through in your audiobook narration. So be consistent. Listen to how you were with your energy before, and let it carry through. And you can do it. You can do it. The number one thing that I do run into with almost every client that I've worked with is a confidence issue. They don't like their voice, or they don't feel they have the talent to do it. And it's a mind game. It's just messing them up in their head. And so we do talk about mindset because mindset is very, very important. When we're talking about audiobook consistency, you have to be in the right frame of mind. Talking about like we're baking, you're that gourmet chef and now you need the tools and you're putting in the right ingredients. Same thing with your audiobook narration. You're putting in the proper ingredients to create this awesome piece of work that is a beautiful thing to hear. I love hearing authors narrate their own audiobook. I love how they tell their story. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So the emotional and energy aspect, the intangibles, along with the practical aspect of it, all that has to be consistent, okay? All right, so we're going to sum things up, and then I want to tell you a little bit more about the audiobook coaching program that I teach when we come back. This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. We'll be right back.
Radio show host and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
And welcome back to the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I almost said audiobook coaching program. Kind of rolls off the tongue that way. I'm your host, Robert A. Lane with Robert Lane Coaching. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Our topic today has been audiobook consistency and how important it is to be consistent with your audiobook narration. And again, you as a nonfiction author have a great book that you've published. You are the only person who is most qualified to narrate your book. You are, not another audio book narrator, definitely not AI, because it's not even a real voice. It's not you. It doesn't represent you, and you don't want to cheapen your author brand. So only you are qualified, or the most qualified, to narrate your own audiobook. So just to summarize what we've been talking about today in regards to being consistent, again, practical consistency, right? It is just like gourmet baking, right? You have the tools, you have the utensils to make a great meal, and you want that perfect consistency, right, of all the ingredients. So from the practical standpoint, you have to have a great space to record in that's comfortable, that's quiet, that's not distracting. You remove distractions from your recording space. And then you need to have decent equipment. You don't go for that, cheapy $50 mic or $100 mic. You got to go for the quality, right? You didn't cut corners writing your book. Why would you even think about cutting corners when it comes to doing your audiobook narration? You don't do it, all right? And then again, mic placement, being consistent with getting settled and set in your space, knowing the distance that you want to be in when you're recording, and maintaining that. Again, consistency from opening credits to closing credits. It's got to be there. And of course, emotional consistency. And those are the intangibles. bringing that awesome voice that's already in your written word, the emotion, the energy, the integrity, the pacing, everything that makes you so unique. You're bringing that through, and that's in your narration. And those are the intangibles that are so important, because you don't want to sound reedy, you don't want to sound monotone and boring. You want to bring your personality, and you want to bring your excitement and your energy and everything that you have that's already in your written word. You're just bringing it to life in your own voice. So one last piece of advice that I want to give you is this: check your recordings, okay? Just check them as you're recording your audiobook. Listen, go back. What was my energy level like? Where was, when I was in my zone when I recorded my last chapter? I want to be in that same zone again. Do what you need to do. Get yourself focused, get yourself grounded, be in the present moment. Do mindset exercises, do a little 5-minute meditation, whatever it takes to get yourself in the right frame of mind before you even think about hitting that record button. All that is really important, because you want to be able to be focused, present, in the right frame of mind, and then you go for it, because you will hit your zone. And most importantly, love yourself, love your voice, appreciate this great tool that you have in your throat and this wonderful head of yours, which is an awesome resonator that helps create your unique voice, because that is part of what your author brand is all about. Okay, that's what makes you you, and that's why you need to narrate your own audiobook. Now, if you have a published book, whether it's recently published or maybe you published a book 5 or 10 years ago, it doesn't matter. Bring it back to life by narrating your own audiobook. If you'd like to find out more information on how to do it, let me tell you a little bit about what I do as an audiobook coach and producer. I have a program which is called Your Book, Your Voice. It's a 6-week program where I send you the recording equipment you need, professional microphone, headphones, everything that you need, which is yours to keep. It's provided as part of the program. Show you how to set up your own recording space, and then teach you the fine art of narration, how to do, voiceover, how to be authentic, because authenticity is key, how to be consistent from opening credits to closing credits. When you record your audiobook, you then will send the files to me, because that's where the coaching hat comes off and the audio editor's hat goes on, and I go through your audiobook with a fine-tooth comb and remove anything that maybe it's a mouth noise or there's some sound in there that doesn't belong. It's out of there. I cut it out to make it sound great. And also, which is really important, is making sure that your audio files meet the exact specifications for publication, because if they don't, they're going to get rejected. And then we do all the uploading for you. So when your audiobook is done and you have your final files mastered and ready to go, we upload them for publication into Audible, Amazon, and Apple Books. You've got to be on those distribution platforms, because most of the general public go there to find audiobooks, and you need to be on there. So we make sure that all your files are uploaded, that they are accepted, that there are no rejections, so you're guaranteed 100% to be published. It's that simple. And you can get your book done and uploaded for publishing in 6 weeks. It doesn't take 6 months or a year or 3 months even. 6 weeks. You can do it in your own voice, and you will sound great. So the first step that you need to do is, again, action takers are success makers. One of my catchphrases. Action takers are success makers. All you need to do is book a call with me, all right? You can go to my website at robertlanecoaching.com. We also have a link that you can grab to book an audiobook consultation call, because I want to talk to you first before I enroll you in the program. So it's bit.ly/audiobook onboarding, okay? Or you can go to robertlanecoaching.com and book a call with me. You will talk with me directly. We'll talk about your book, your marketing goals, and get you enrolled. It's that simple, all right? Look forward to speaking with you. That's going to wrap it up with the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I appreciate you hanging out. My assignment for you is this: when you're out and about in the world, smile at a stranger, say hello to them, maybe give them a compliment, because you don't know what that person is going through. Maybe they're having a really tough day. And that small act of kindness can make the world of difference in somebody's life. So make a world of difference in someone's life. And make a world of difference in your life by turning your book into an audiobook that you, as the author, narrate. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Your Book, Your Voice podcast. I'm Robert A. Lane. Go to robertlanecoaching.com for more information about my audiobook coaching program. We're streaming live on the Bold Brave TV network. Appreciate you for hanging out, and we'll be talking to you next week, my friends. Take care.
This has been Your Book, Your Voice with host Robert A. Lane. Tune in each week for another powerful and informative episode of Your Book, Your Voice, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.